like when you have those restrictions in your own country and you can't go anywhere, and then you go to another country, you're playing there like there's nothing.
You may know them from the deathcore metal band Distant. Please welcome Nouri and Elmer to the podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Hey man, good day man. We are doing great, man.
Good to hear, good to hear. So, just to start off, kind of for each of you, you could go one at a time. What was like your first experience with music, or what made you fall in love with music?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say for the first music, how it all started, I guess I went from Guns N' Roses to Bring Me the Horizon. And after that, of course, you had the Spiced Icon and Suicide Silence, that stuff coming up from the MySpace era. And yeah, man, I can say that's where it all started.
All right.
For me, my brother introduced me to Rammstein and Linkin Park when I was like 10 years old. So I listened to heavier and heavier metal over time, and then by the time I was like 17, the deathcore era started, and that's where I got hooked, and I'm still there.
And so you both kind of started with this more like rock metal side of music, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, a lot of the popular genres, or a lot of the artists who like get #1 on all these charts are like pop, rap. Why do you think metal isn't always looked as such a popular genre of music, or why do you think some people aren't attracted to metal music?
It has to do with the vocals a lot of the times. So I think why other people dislike it is because it's shouting and growling, but a lot of people do respect it though. If you have a lot of family members that come to our shows and that they don't particularly like the vocals, but they do appreciate the musicians' skills and just the general aspect of it being a band performing the music and not just one guy or electronic instrument.
All right, and yeah, so like growing up after your exposure to music, were there any other like dreams or like thoughts of what you might want to do in life other than music? Like we hear all the time, kids growing up want to be like the athlete, the astronaut, fireman, whatever. Was there anything you thought of other than music, or was it kind of just music from the start?
Yeah, I guess it's music from the start, but along the way, you hit the bottom line from real life that you need to work to sustain yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what can I say? At the moment where we are now, I never expected to come this far as we are at the moment, and especially with our last album, Eels of Oblivion, it gave us a really sick boost. And now I can say we all have the drive to still continue to make it possible so we can sustain ourselves and every member to pay out of the band. And yeah, in a band it's always harder. Depends on the size of your band, of course. I mean, unless you're a Metallica or Slipknot, I mean, they made their name. That's insane, right? But I think for everyone still, this is their dream, and we're still on their way to reach that. And if it's possible, yeah, it's possible. But will it happen? You can't say for sure. It depends on many factors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for real the dream, and we want to make it a possibility.
And so this dream, this desire to continue it, what kind of level are you reaching for? Are you reaching for that Metallica Slipknot level, or just like a level where like you can sustain yourselves purely on the band, you have some following, you can play shows, whatnot? Like what kind of level do you want this to reach?
It's a dream to get on the same level as a Slipknot or a Metallica, but I think for us at the moment, what we want to approach or get in the same line as Tired as Murder and Lorna Shore are at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we want to get.
Yeah, I agree with Nouri, but we do keep stepping up though, as we set our goals and limits higher all the time. Like in the last years, our goals were a bit lower, and that's because you have to be realistic. If you directly start working towards Metallica level, it might be hard to lose sight of the reality.
Mm-hmm. And so, for your music, there seems to kind of be like a story behind it, or it's telling like one continued storyline. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
indeed.
just kind of give us a background as to what that story is.
Yeah. So since we started working with Alan, our vocalist, in 2007, we already had the idea of making a story or meaning behind the lyrics, but by the time only the lyrics were written, but the concept behind it was not told yet. So this is from the Tsukiyomi EP even, and that the narrative or the story continued with Terranatopia and now Aeons of Oblivion, but we had not written it down. So when we got into lockdowns in 2020, we had some more time on our hands, and we started writing it. So mainly me and Alan, we checked all the lyrics, we brainstormed about what was the idea behind the lyrics, and wrote the whole story that details it basically.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of artists kind of try this story aspect and have it kind of for a story album, or like they have a couple songs strung together. How long do you want this story to be? How many albums or songs do you want this to span across?
For now, it's a never-ending story. Like everything that currently is planned into the future is already incorporated in this story, and that's where basically the whole band pivots around. As we have so much inspiration still left on this concept, but never say never. We might sometimes, sometime in the future, ditch the idea, but doesn't look like it.
Yeah. And so you kind of said that you sat down and like thought about the lyrics so that the story could pan out the way you imagined. When you're coming up with new songs, do you usually have the vocals or the lyrics first, or the instrumental first? Kind of, how do you kind of like go through the process of making a new song?
Well, first it's kind of both ways, because like Elmer mentioned, they sat down for lyrics and the book, and they created a whole universe, and that universe even has like other universes. So how can I say it? You have to see it like the Marvel universe, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so big, and you can extract it to so many dimensions as well. And because they've written that, and even things that you can continue on that, you already have like a subject to start with. So that makes it a lot of easier. But they already thought about it. So you could say the lyrics are halfway there. Then we start writing a song, and then when the song is written or like halfway, we discuss the atmosphere or the theme around it, if it would fit the lyrics.
Mm-hmm. And so for your songs, once you start making it and recording everything, for the vocals, with how much like screaming or loud vocals you do, is there any kind of warm ups or treatments you do to kind of keep your voice intact so that you don't damage it during the recording process?
I'm the bassist and Nouri is the guitarist. It's not something that we can directly answer ourselves. But,
yeah. But like, do you have any knowledge of it for your vocalist?
Any experience with Alan, our vocalist, we know that he does do warm-ups beforehand, indeed.
Yeah, and
of course that's important.
It's also before the show, and I guess he also does it before the taking process. A half hour before, he always drinks some tea for his throat.
And
so yeah, warm up and tea.
And so, what does a warm up look like for you guys, for your parts of the band?
Well, we just go for it.
If there is a warm up, yeah, you could also just hop right in.
We just pick up the instrument and just go for it.
Just pick up and play.
During the recording process, we always take a guitar to how would I say it? We have custom guitars, and a guy built it here around the area in Amsterdam. So we always do a quick checkup, and he does some measurements and stuff like that if everything is alright. And if we know the guitar is good to go, we just pick it up, plug it in, and start recording.
Nice, yeah. And
and an important thing for shows itself or for recordings is just that your hands are warm. Sometimes you play in areas or in winter and it's really cold. Then you need to have a longer warm-up period to get your fingers ready.
And so Elmer, you kind of touched on it earlier with like, make sure you have a realistic idea of where you're trying to get, and don't immediately shoot for that like top of your industry stardom. What other advice might you give like bands or artists just now starting to make music?
There's so many tips and tricks that you could give them, but be realistic. That's one thing, that's for sure. Try to match your ideas and goals with your fellow musicians in your band. See if you want to get to the same level, have the same aspirations, and don't lose sight of where you want to head to.
It depends on what drive you have, because like if you're with 5 or 4 people or even 6, every person like is his own, so everyone has his own ideas. But the key thing is a good communication and to divide tasks. I think if you can do that in a proper way, you won already the half of the journey.
All right. And so, go ahead.
And even I said you have to be realistic, but you do have to have some dreams though. Like people would have never imagined being here right now where we are, and we would have never set this goal beforehand. Like even discussing when we just were a band, we were even laughing about doing a European tour. So that's how far we have grown.
And the most important thing is also to have fun.
Yeah. And that goes for everything in life. Just try to have fun with it, enjoy the moment.
Yeah, that's the motivation, because it's a long-term project. If you don't have fun, you will quit early.
And so, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or anything else, are there any kind of social medias or platforms you try to use to like get your music out there and get more exposure? And if so, how do you kind of do that?
Oh, you mentioned it already, TikTok. That's the new thing these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's used by so many people, and especially the younger generation. And it's a completely different platform, like compared to traditional social media. So you need a different approach for it to utilize it. So we're on there as well, and we're doing our best. And I think besides that, it's just general social media and being very active on them.
Mm-hmm. And for your music, we kind of touched on it a little before recording, but do you kind of take some inspiration from other artists? And if you do, how do you kind of mix that inspiration and bits and pieces from other artists with like your own original sound or your original music? Like, kind of, how do you find a balance between the two?
That's a hard one. I think the bands that are our inspiration. I mean, of course, you have the OGs like Chelsea Green, Suicide Silence, stuff like that. But for us, the main part, I guess, is like when we're on tour, we meet bands, and we learn from that. We learn from those people, like how to improve yourself as a musician, because you get in touch with other people as well, and you share like your goals, your information, and I feel like every tour we play, we learn something new, or when we listen to other bands' music we tour with, it gives us ideas like to how to approach a different perspective of writing.
Mm-hmm. And so you said you learn a lot from other people on tour. What are kind of some of the lessons or things you've learned?
Well, for starters, is to how to even record music. Um, Besides that, picking up my guitar skills again, because I'm really good with Howie from Within Destruction, and he even gives me some lessons from time to time to improve myself as a musician, but also in my songwriting, because when you're like busy with music or learning or writing, at some point you hit a bar and you need someone else for refreshment, and they can, if they are better than you, you can improve yourself as a musician if you're open for it, if you know what your limits are and what you are capable of, and if you can recognize that other people are willing to help you.
Mm-hmm. And then being on tour, what is that kind of experience like for you two, or like what's it like going on the road and being away from home for an extended period of time?
It's amazing. Then you feel like you're really free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're living in the fast lane though, because a lot of people think you're just going on a holiday for a week or a month or so, but it's definitely not a holiday. You're sleeping like 2 hours a night in a van. You're seeing so many new things in one day, and you also have to perform besides that. So you feel like if you go away for a week, you feel like you've been away for 2 years or something.
And so, whether it's touring, recording, anything else related to your music process or creative process, how has the pandemic or the quarantine kind of affected all that? Or where do you see that changing your lives the most?
it affected it in a good way. I have to say, since of the lockdowns when it all started out, we had time on our hands to actually write an album. And also Elmer and Ellen came on the idea to write a book there. So yeah, like we had so much time on our hands, and we had some tours and shows planned for sure, and we were really bummed out it was all happening because it's all new. You don't know what was going on in the world. It was like a strange period. But when we were actually at home and we just had a video call, like, "Yo guys, what should we do? How are you guys even doing? Like, how you're holding on and what's going on with life?" And then we talked about it and we're like, "Yeah, you know what we should do? We should invest in time and just go for it. Just write an album." And we're like, "Yeah, all right, we're gonna do that." And because we did it, our it really helped out to grow the band to what it is now, because of the internet. I would say.
And so, have you had shows or tours like either in the pandemic or afterwards? Now that we're hopefully kind of on the back end of it, or that it's coming to a close, or have you still not really had much live opportunity since before the pandemic?
Yeah, of course, this changed a lot, and it changed dramatically. Here in Europe, all the countries have different regulations, even though they try to have one united European regulation. It's not true. So basically, everything in the Netherlands got cancelled or postponed. We have some shows that have been postponed now for the 5th time already. But in the summer, we did play some festivals in Eastern Europe where the measurements were a bit less restricted. And afterwards, we joined the Never Say Die tour in November, which is generally a very big European tour. But it got cancelled, while the international edition, and because of that, we had the chance to do this pandemic-like bonus edition of Never Say Die tour, which was a very great experience for us. And we were able to tour Germany and Switzerland, while we're in the Netherlands. Still, everything was cancelled. But still, even during that tour, the last 3 shows got cancelled as well because of the infections growing over there. So it's very weird times.
Yeah. And so with that return to live music, playing live shows again, what was kind of that like, or like what was the joy behind finally getting back out there and giving your fans a show?
Yeah, that was really crazy. Like the first show that we did again was a big festival in Czech Republic. It was just crazy. After almost 2 years of not playing shows, here with the restrictions still in the Netherlands, you had to take distance, and then all of a sudden we were at the festival. Everything seems normal. We're playing for such a big crowd. It really motivated us.
It motivated us, and it was really strange because it was still all new, like getting back to shows. And I know like half the band was already vaccinated, and I had my appointment scheduled, but they didn't have earlier time, so I had to do it like when I came back. But it was like really strange. I mean, passing those borders, no one said anything at that time yet, and we were like, "All right, we did a test. I'm good, so we should be all right." And then, like when you have those restrictions in your own country and you can't go anywhere, and then you go to another country, you're playing there like there's nothing. Like
It's like
What's happening,
it's
man?
jarring, kind of going from like staying inside, like don't see anyone, and then playing a giant festival with all these people, and then going back home and being like, okay, now I gotta stay at home again. Like it's a really back and forth cycle that's hard to get used to. And
yeah,
so,
but
yeah,
for us it showed that there are definitely possibilities still. So even if in the Netherlands everything is locked down, we know that eventually we will get back to that feeling.
Yeah.
Before that time, we will just go there.
And so, for you two personally, is there a song that the band has made that like is your favorite that you've made, or maybe that's whether you just like the sound of it, or like you have memories recording it, or you're like your part in it? Kind of, do either of you have a favorite song that the band has made?
For me, currently, it's Aeons of Oblivion. It's the title track of our newest album.
Yeah.
Really love it. Really love the collaboration with Adam of Oceano we did on it. But there's so many other tracks that have a special feeling or a specific moment of a nice recollection.
Yeah, man. For me personally, it's Udikpism because I wrote it when the pandemic started, and I just wrote it on my bed in my bedroom. And then when you actually put it online and you see it has a crazy amount of streams, it's really strange. Even playing it live when we did on Never Say Die, it was like, all right, so I wrote this on my bed in my bedroom, and what's happening? I mean, I see a circle.
And now people are dancing to it, singing along to it. Like,
yeah, they're going crazy. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, and so those are all the questions I had for you today. Kind of, what do you have coming up, if you can say? Where can people find you online? Instagram, if you have a website, like that. Where can people find you?
Isnt Official.
Yes. Very active on Instagram and Facebook, so check that out. Otherwise, distantofficial.com or website.
Alright, so Distant Official on Instagram, Distant on Spotify. I'll leave a link to that down below. Thank you two so much for coming on, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, man, thank you as well, and I would say have a great day. What time is it actually for you?
It's about to be 4 p.m. for me here.
That's nice. Yeah, man.
It's 10 p.m. here, so
for those who don't know, there's a bit of a time difference. For what is it for you? 4 p.m. to what?
10 p.m.
10, yeah.
Yeah, so quite the time difference there. So it was a little hard to find the right time of day to record this. But thank you guys for coming on, giving me your time today, and yeah, good luck with everything you have coming in the future.
Yeah, man. Have a great day.
You too. All right.
And stay safe.
Yeah.
I wanna have it all right now, but sometimes you